I was watching Gun's video on the Bullion Beast and his theory about the Counter-Strike build, and I was like, okay, let's check his hypothesis, which is the following. In many of the top KBKs, people are eating their caps. They're eating their caps, therefore probably a Counter-Strike build is better than a fierce attack. Now, I already recorded like 40 minutes of me figuring shit up. That's gone. Because like no one's watching a 40-minute videos. I gotta say I don't have the answer, but I'm actually considering switching all my builds to Counter-Strike. And I will explain why in this video. Now, I want to say a few things first as a disclaimer. I think no cavalry main is eating their cavalry non-stop into like 100 mages, because he knows he's gonna get kind of wrecked, even with a Counter-Strike package. You're probably gonna be, like, the reports are gonna be 15 to 20k merits, okay? So it's not gonna be the best in the world. And then again, I think the main reason people might be doing this is because they are trying to fix another problem by this. Let's be honest, we all saw the cheesy marches like Kuma Husk with Venomous Lizard Cavalry getting high merits. But the thing is, why are you using that march? That Kuma is wasting stamina that you could be using with infantry, which, except in cheesy situations, is gonna render you better reports, is gonna help more your team, because it's gonna be able to sustain more damage, okay? So, like, again, I think one of the reasons many people are, like, right now in top KKs you have two instances. One, people are switching to all riders because cheating is like really not that worth, or they're just hitting cavalry non-stop because they're like, if you see the people hitting cavalry in such a way, is always people that are getting pushed into their territory, and sometimes it is because they have like less activity, for example. So like, my point is, I think people are like hitting cavalry this way sometimes because they're trying to fix a problem with, like, they're trying to offset a problem. So the problem maybe is you're not as active as the enemy, for example, or the enemy is pushing into you and you're not pushing back, and you're resorting to hitting your cavalry as if it were infantry, which the solution will be you play cavalry as it's meant to be played, and other people, while you are stamped out of all of your infantry, are hitting your infantry. So the solution is fixing the other part, not your like adapting your builds to the problem that you're having in this specific KVK. Now, apart from that, I went over builds with Golden Rock Fierce Attack, Golden Rock Counter-Strike package, and the Venomous Lizard. The initial conclusion that I have is, if you're really gonna go full yeet, like you're literally gonna be doing this. The enemy is pushing this flag here. You're gonna be clicking your cap reset, pressing march, yeeting, and not doing anything else. Just go full Venomous Lizards. It's gonna be the best way, okay? Like, you're probably gonna instantly die, but at least those few cycles that you have are gonna actually, deliver a bit of damage. Now, the problem starts when you were talking about cavalry mains. If you're a full Rati player, which honestly I feel the more you get into better KVKs is harder, because for me ideally the game wouldn't let you have cities like so close to each other, but at the same time I get that long runs are not fun, okay? But my point is, you cannot really go behind the enemy backlines and hit like reinforcing marches, especially in top KVKs. Everyone has the infantry, everyone has cavalry. You're gonna try to go there, you're gonna have to walk in between cities, you're gonna get jumped on, and you're gonna instantly die, okay? I do believe doing that still better reports than literally just sending your cavalry marches into like 100, 200 mazes, because you're gonna literally explode. Sometimes you will not even be able to cast your artifacts, which are a huge source of damage for cavalry. But again, I am finding that if you're not just full Rati, I'm talking like, if the fight is here, maybe you're literally here just killing donkeys, the Counter-Strike package actually might be just better. Which worries me a bit, considering all my cap pet builds are Fierce Attack, and some of those, or most of those, are 2 stars, which is a bit sad. Let's go to the calculator. Okay, I was talking with someone. I completely forgot my train of thought. Obviously, there's gonna be a cut, but because I don't know what was the last thing I was saying, I'm gonna start from here. I think the breaking point between FA and which is Fierce Attack and Counter-Strike is 4 to 5 marches. The moment you're getting hit by 4 to 5 marches, you're better off with the Counter-Strike build in most situations. Now, there's another thing to have into consideration, which is, let's say you send 5 marches versus 5 mages, okay? This is so tricky. Or 5v5, like 5 cavalry versus 5 cavalry, okay? The 5 marches of Counter-Strike package, only one of those marches will be really benefiting from the Counter-Strike package. This is going to be the one that's getting focused. Versus in the other situation, which is going to be the 5 enemy cavalry marches are going to be dealing way more damage. Yeah, I just don't know. My head is hurting. My head is actually hurting. Because the thing is, the 5 marches hitting you with Fierce Attack are all gonna get the extra damage out from Fierce Attack. Meanwhile, all your marches that are not getting hit with the Counter-Strike are adding 0 extra damage to the march. So we could be talking that you're dealing 2.5k damage to the enemy cavalry unit, for example, versus the enemy cavalry unit is doing... Why this is higher? Why is that? Oh, because of the build, okay. So we could be talking that the enemy is dealing per march 1.4k more damage hitting you, because this actually hits from every single cavalry march, versus this march is dealing 5k 700 damage versus... Like, the crazy thing though is, so 1.38 multiplied by 5. Sure. So your first attacks from the 5 cavalry marches you have are dealing 7,000 damage to the enemy single cavalry march unit. The single Counter-Strike package on the cavalry that you're focusing should be this. Whoops. Is dealing 7,000 damage. Like, I feel something's wrong. Like, it makes no sense. Okay, let's put a more realistic cycle duration though. Let's put 7 seconds. So yeah, that's probably more like it. So we set 7,000 damage versus you're probably in 7 cycle duration, which is the amount of time that probably... so cavalry clashes, okay? Rage builds up. The 5 cavalry with Fierce Attack hit your cavalry with Counter-Strike. They deal 7,000 extra damage to you. You're dishing out to all the enemy cavalry marches 4,200 damage, so you're 3,000 damage short, okay? And then they're gonna be dealing 7,000 extra damage on top of you. This is actually impossible to calculate. Like, I would actually need 5 marches full Counter-Strike build versus 5 marches full Fierce Attack build to see which one ends on top. Because the math here gets extremely tricky. Because the thing is, the Counter-Strike player probably gonna lose the first cavalry march. Like, he's gonna lose the first march faster. The issue though is the enemy player is probably losing overall more troops from the Counter-Strike packages every single time. So the Fierce Attack player is gonna be killing marches faster, but every single march that he's hitting is dealing damage to all his marches. So over time, all his marches will start being lower troop count than the enemy cavalry ones, which is like, you know, like what's the offset point? Like, at what point So for let's say, for example, you're swarming, you kill 2 enemy cavalry marches, and he only has 3 alive, but all of those 3 are like kind of full HP, versus you, who has like 5 marches but below 50% HP from taking all that extra counterattack damage, and now you still have to kill 3 more marches. It's just like, I think it's actually impossible to calculate. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give it a shot to the Bullion Beast as counter strike the moment I see that it's not meta for rallies. If it's meta for rallies, a fierce attack is the way to go for cavalry. If it's not, I think I'm gonna build it counter strike and I'm gonna check the reports. I do eat cavalry sometimes into enemy range units. Like again, if you're fully eating, sure go. Like if you're purely eating, go with Venomous. That's the way to go. If you're a main cavalry player who's sometimes eating and sometimes is not, probably Counter-Strike build, although you might start losing more 5v5 caps. That's the variable that I'm not able to calculate. Okay, if you're full ratty player on like the backline, just hitting donkeys, marches that are alone, Fierce Attack is probably the way to go still. But it's really interesting right now that Counter-Strike might be the meta even for cavalry. Yeah. Like the other thing that I need to know is, okay, in terms of damage output, it should not matter. The damage that we see here is way higher because it's not taking into account the troop type. So it's not taking it into, like, I don't know. I actually feel like going Counter-Strike builds. So I'm gonna show you something. So I asked Shaw. He made his own calculator. He knows a lot of about the number thingies on the game. Okay. So I told him, well, I saw Gun's video about the Bullion Beast Counter-Strike, and I was digging deeper at first. I thought that for full yeet would make sense, but at that point, why not make full Venomous Lizard, which got corroborated by CodDBB app. So yes, if you're fully yeeting into 100 marches of range, you just go Venomous Lizard. Saw that too, haven't looked into yet. The issue though came when I was checking FA versus Counter-Strike, even in like 5v5 setups. If you're doing 5v5 caps and you target an Fierce Attack cap versus the enemy hitting one of your Counter-Strike caps, your pet gonna be dealing 2x the amount of damage. Furthermore, let's say you charge into 5 to 10 mages and your march survives for 12 seconds. In earlier circumstances, that maybe it's 3 Fierce Attack procs, which will be like 7k damage with this build. Now, why do I say 3 Fierce Attack procs? Charge in, insta proc, around 5 to 6 seconds you're going to be charging your rage, you proc your skills again, and then you're going to be disengaging, running backwards, and re-engaging again with Unyielding Rush, which is, I don't know, 12 to 14 seconds on average. You're going to be taking 3 Fierce Attack procs. Now, another variable that we need to add into the equation is, what if Fierce Attack is actually overkill? What do I mean by that? If you're charging with 5 cavalry into like an enemy range unit, it's probably going to get nuked even without the need of Fierce Attack, which that gives more value to the Counter-Strike, because, you know, like, is it wasted damage? That's my question. So if I don't really need that damage to kill a march, and that damage will end up coming from another source, do I really need the Fierce Attack? Versus going with the Counter-Strike, which is at any point during the charge, if I'm getting hit, I'm going to be dealing some so the Counter-Strike is going to help me offset some of that extra damage that I'm taking from the target that I'm not focusing, maybe making the report way better. Like, all those things I'm not 100% sure yet. But yeah, like again, this is so this is the build with the Fierce Attack. Show it on the video. As you can see, 4000. Like, this is higher in the 12 cycle duration because, again, the calculator is not taking into account that you can probably run proc 3 times this Fierce Attack damage. So this is probably more around the 4000 mark, okay? But the Counter-Strike will be dealing 12k damage. What do I mean by that? So if you're like charging into mage players and they have 10 mage marches total and they are hitting your Auric Warhound, then we're talking, look at the insane amount of damage that your Auric Warhound is dealing backwards to the enemy mages while you're charging. Now, again, we're in the same situation. The march that's getting target is gonna cook. But see, like, the issue though is all your other marches are missing on 4k damage output, so that's 16k damage output that you're missing on. Because Counter-Strike does nothing if you're not getting targeted, which is something that you need to consider, but let's keep reading. Yeah, the assumption is you're being attacked back. Caps usually not, but in this situation, yes. I think more and more often cavalries are actually getting hit back. And I think this might be better than Venomous Lizard, because with cap pets you can proc several times the main skill through Yielding Rush. What do I mean with that? The same you're proccing 3 times Fierce Attack on 12 seconds, you can proc 3 times Outburst of Rage by going in, out, in, out, in, out. Okay, so that's something that the Venomous Lizard doesn't benefit from the Unyielding Rush itself in the sense of insta procs. So, but they tell him, but even if you try to hit some mage, you take some damage back, unless you find the one random dude who's like, you know, like you're picking marches on the back. And I tell him here, and then I think myself, is it worth to build a wall pad for the instance where you may find 1 to 2 mage marches that are alone? You're already gonna be killing them anyway, so why build for that situation where you're already gonna be finishing on top? Like in a 5v5 cap situation, the Counter-Strike is gonna match the FA. This is kinda wrong because I wasn't considering the fact that only one of your cap marches with the Fierce Attack build is gonna be dishing out damage versus the enemy 4 cavalry marches are gonna be hitting you with Fierce Attack. I mean, people of the House Kuma blink caps with Venomous Lizard, maybe it's the way. This is the full cheesy march. Yeah, but the difference between Venomous and Cap Pet is when yielding rush procs of the main pet skill. Venomous main pet is 1 per second lower damage. In like 12 seconds you can get 3 procs of the main Cap Pet skill. Gilding, proc, cycle 1, cycle of rage, proc and guild rush another target, 3 procs in around 12 seconds that the calculator doesn't reflect it. Yes, if you have old micro, I mean that's true. If you're fully whaled style eating, Venomous Lizard again is the play, okay? Venomous Lizard, if you're brain that just eating, is gonna be the play. So here I tell him, but even then in theory Venomous might still be outmatching it, which is true. So I made here the math out, so 12 second cycle, 10 attacks. Yeah, but wait, I don't think I calculated. Okay, no, yes. So Outburst, 3 procs, 7,423 damage, plus the Counter-Strike damage equals 21,751 damage, versus the Venomous Lizard, same amount of attackers, gives you what is it? Yikes. Oh no, okay. So it gives you 5k more damage factor. Again, if you're full eating, Venomous Lizard is the way to go. If you're a main cap player who's not always eating, I still do believe cavalry pets are probably the way to go. My thought is, if you kit all your caps like this, you'll have 5 out of 5 targets on one cap and Counter-Strike not firing at all for the other 4. This is something that I was missing, which he pointed out to me, which make everything more complicated. No, I think still props cap pet is worth just in case you're not getting 100% of the time. That's still what I stand for. Okay, that's true, but look at the damage difference between 1v1 Fierce Attack versus Counter-Strike. This is the Fierce Attack build, 1v1, okay, so we're talking 4,586 damage factor. Counter-Strike, so you're losing 600 damage factor on a 1v1, which is not much, honestly, like considering all the benefits from the Counter-Strike package. Losing 600 damage factor in a 1v1, which is probably the least amount of fights you're gonna ever have with your cavalry, is, I think it's there to say is a cage. At the moment second target hits you, Counter-Strike already matches it, so as you can see, again, you add here one more attack in because it's Fierce Attack, damage stays the same, but a second attacker on your Counter-Strike build already goes to 5.4k damage. Unless we are talking a range unit, because then again in theory in a 12-second cycle with really good micro I mean, you could cast 3 times FA, which will be 4k damage total alone in Fierce Attack. I think the breaking point is 4 or 5 marches hitting you that Counter-Strike will shoot up. I think I will try Counter-Strike honestly, because then again, if you 5 bombing enemy range units, do you really need 3 cycles of skills to kill that march? Not really. Do you mind if I show this combo on YouTube? I don't mind. It's mostly you explain your thoughts, but that means I will have to go watch the video. The truth is that I don't know the answer. And the truth is that I actually need in-game testing to figure out this out. I think I'm gonna go with what I said. If this pet doesn't end up, maybe even if it ends up being rally meta, I think I'm gonna give it a shot, the Counter-Strike. The issue is I need to figure out the build for the Counter-Strike with 7 slots. The thing is, if you could make the enemy target... So, for example, let's say you add Spirit Bone Torque into your cavalry. You make that march, for example, the Counter-Strike one, you're cooking. Because your other 4 cavalry marches are all hitting with first attack, so they're having the highest damage output when they are not getting hit, versus your march that has Counter-Strike, which is the one being targeted. That will be full cooking, but I don't think it's worth losing a cavalry artifact just to do these shenanigans. So, okay. So I'm thinking backwards about something that I spoke with in Touch. If you don't know it, okay, there's this weird thing in the game where if you're using... like I still have lots of cabs in my hospital. So, for some reason, when you're having all your march... Okay, so as you can see, I have all my marches in the same pixel. Go to this account. Okay, now it's actually insane. Maybe I need to be an enemy. Okay, the point anyways. There are some heroes that for some reason they stand up above others. So you've seen this for sure. Sometimes you're trying to exactly, for example, target. It's usually the prior that I found is Tobin, then Forondil, then the rest. Okay, so Tobin for some reason usually is the hero that if they are on the same pixel and you try to target, it's gonna be Tobin. You could, I don't know, maybe try to put the Counter-Strike build into that pet. I don't think it's worth all the headache. I think I'm gonna have to do testing. I do believe it's worth. The issue is, like, the issue that we're seeing right now is that it's gonna depend on your playstyle. Full Yeet, like full brained Yeet, you go Venomous Lizard. There's no question about it. Not worth to go for the cavalry pets. That's considering that you're only eating, okay? If you're full ratty on the backline, you go first attack. The issue I think is for the average cavalry player, which does both. Like I do both. Like I'm gonna be sometimes eating, and I'm gonna be like another time just trying to play smarter. You know, I'm not saying I'm gonna go hit donkeys because I actually try to avoid those. But I'm gonna be trying to hit the backline, reinforcements, etc., etc. And for that instance, the issue is, you see, like, if your march is targeted, Counter-Strike is gonna cook. If you're not targeted, you're gonna lose some value. And then again, you gotta think yourself. If I have 5 marches of cavalry T5 hitting an enemy mage march, do I care about first attack? Probably not. That march is gonna get one shot anyways. But then if it's 5v5 cavalry, that's where the problem arises. Because you're probably gonna start losing most likely the 5v5 versus other cavalry, unless the Counter-Strike package is so strong that you're gonna lose marches faster, but the enemy is gonna lose more troops overall, so at the end you're gonna be on top because the enemy lost more troops. But then again, most of the cavalry fights are actually decided by the Warhammer procs and the CC rather than the marches themselves. Like, it's so hard right now for me to decide, so I don't want to make this a 6-hour video of literally me just, I don't know, thinking. So, what I said, that's what I'm gonna do. Okay? I'm gonna give you the information, you're gonna have to decide for yourself now. I'm gonna try to figure out to build with a Volume Beast, where I go 7 skills with the Counter-Strike package. I'm gonna give it a shot, I'm gonna check the results, I'm gonna see the damage difference. Again, the damage difference is gonna come down to the... Let me see, actually. Do I have any PvP reports? Okay, the issue is this is full cheesy march, you know, like this is wolf mask thingy. Okay, something that was not cheesy, please. You see, like, what I'm wondering is it worth first attack considering you're already one-shotting marches without it? Because I think we are actually maybe running into the issues of overkill, or maybe Counter-Strike. So, in the ideal situation, you're already so far ahead that you're gonna kill the enemy anyways. So maybe rather than further enhancing those situations, maybe with the Counter-Strike packages in your weak times, you're able to like help there. I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm gonna think this out. For now, this is the information I have. I'm gonna keep digging. Maybe you say, oh well, this really give, like, I think I gave 2 clear answers. Full Yeet Venomous, full Ratty Fierce attack. If you're like me, good fucking luck, because right now I don't know the answer. But this could actually change completely the meta for cavalry marches. And yeah, I'm gonna catch you in the next one.